is to make sure that everybody is following the same process. We had residents come in and talk about, you know, the parking, or they're coming in Alta Vista with the new development. This, one of these specific developments that we're talking about, that shouldn't have been approved if there was not adequate traffic flow, which is part of our main problem. So I want to make sure that we're talking to our community citizens who have questions about specific developments. Now, go ahead.
I just have a brief question before we move forward. I guess, Mr. Mayor, you can confirm or deny, has the project on the backside of Alta Vista been shut down for lack of permitting?
No, they've been clearing their land primarily and preparing for things, but they've been in touch with Bureau Veritas, has their documents and all that stuff, so they're back and forth with that.
Okay, so I received information that their project was shut down and they moved their crew to San Antonio for the next couple of months until their permitting is cleared.
Okay, then you may have information that I don't have. I follow the process, but if they shut it down and decided to move, that's a private development, maximizing their employees and that sort of stuff on another project.
So could you do the council a favor and find out whether this is true or factual?
Sure. Yeah, I'll be glad to check with them and find out if they made a decision to move it, and they may have made a decision that have nothing to do with us. They may have needed their workforce at another project.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I asked for this to be, because I just found out, I think at the last meeting, that all three of these developments, well, the newest two developments are owned by the same people who developed Panther Hill. Do you know this to be factual or true, or? Because it was kind of hearsay at the last meeting.
I have no knowledge where I can attest who owns what. I haven't seen financial documents on ownership and that sort of thing. We see permit applications.
Right, and
So
so when
name
the
on
permit.
permit's the same?
On two of them, the names on permits are the same. The company name is different on two of them, but they've got contact, but you say ownership. I don't know who owns them.
So, going through the process, we're assuming that the two new developments, which again, we're not against development, the two new developments are being moved forward with the people from Panther Hill, who built Panther Hill. So we have, Mr. Mayor, we have the packets that we have here in front of us, we have three separate permit packets for all three developments before us. Can you walk us through where we're at? Can you walk us to, you know, Panther Hill is, you know, again, probably about, you would say 75% done. They're still doing some other development. Can you bring us up to speed, since you're the administrative person and this is in your bailiwick? But we just as council want to get information, but also want to share with the citizens where we're at. But we want to make sure that the process is the same for everybody. Because, and then I have two subsequent questions in reference to USW signing off on water, sewer, looking at the lines, city engineer, those type of things. Because again, at the last meeting, you said we had an engineer who looked at this, and city council didn't approve any engineer to work for the city. And so we're trying to find out who did you have and who paid who. But before we jump to that, we want to just walk through the process so everybody is very clear in the community.
What part of the process you want to know, Councilman?
The same process that the community wants to know. How are companies coming in and starting development with half-done stuff? So if you could walk us through the permitting process?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
thank you.
Absolutely. When you buy land, if you bought land, and your land is zoned to do whatever you want to do, you're able to do that, and the city, as prior council has shared with you, is not in a position to stop people from building on their own land unless they go out of zone or they're breaking some law. So that's the process.
No, so yes, and the reason why this is on the agenda, because I just need you to give us some more information and be clear. I know what you just said, and I think the community knows what you just said. We're talking about a development that is going to expand, like Panther Hill. Let's say they're at 60% capacity. They put in, let's 750 units, 1,000 units, let's say 1,000, keep the math simple.
Okay.
There's an impact to our city infrastructure, water, sewer. Have we addressed those issues from the city's perspective, not the development perspective? My question and concern has to do with not the semantics of trying to chase around. My questions have to do with this, if they have the proper permit to do a development, that is one piece. But if they don't, USW did not look at the water, did not look at the water line. There's some internal processes that should have happened. And you talked about now that Public Works is under USW, or going to be, then that process triggers making sure we have a city engineer that is verifying. One of the issues we had that came up at Brookside that you talked about, I think that was Councilwoman Williams. Brookside was built where the streets aren't to the width of the city streets. So that means you have the two back streets, they're undrivable because they got big craters in their middle. They don't even use them as streets anymore. And we want to make sure that if it be Panther Hill or any other development, that they are required to have the same width, the same tier structure of streets. And our policies and with your help, because they come to you as our point of contact currently. And we're saying that you should be communicating and we're working together to make sure, one, we want development in our community, but we want to make sure that the process works for everybody. And so, again, as you just talked about walking us through the process, the question is, with Panther Hill, where are they at in their, as far as their current development? Have they fixed the current issues, and do we have all formal documentation that they're 100% up to speed with Panther Hill? That's my question.
100% up to speed?
Meaning with current, not with stuff they haven't built yet. We've had several community people come in, voice their concerns about Panther Hill. You had town hall meetings about Panther Hill and all the stuff going on. I'm saying, based upon your knowledge, are those situations rectified, and where are we at with Panther Hill at where they're at? Because they're still building stuff. And so, have we had any subsequent issues with them? You know, Panther Hill, when you drive in, two cars, a fire truck and a car can't go in at the same time. And so that's part of, when we talk about engineering, one of the things that would have been, you know, talked about. Again, just for the safety issues. And so we're saying that we want to just make sure that Panther Hill is here, where are we at with them, and then the two new developments. You just told us, which one did you say that Panther doesn't have the permit? Because then there's one that's supposed.
625 Elm Street.
Well, so we have them listed. We have it listed as Gates and Prairie.
No, I take that back.
Okay.
If you look at it, it says building permit number, says number 114. That tells me that they do have a permit. So I'm not sure what you're saying when they don't. Building permit 100 at the other Campus Edge Apartments, that's a permit number. The ladies in our office put those on there, so that tells me they have permits. So what permit question do you have?
So, I mean, you didn't know 5 minutes ago, now you're saying they do.
I hadn't looked at this application. Did you look at it? Because it says permit right there.
This was just given to us before the meeting.
Okay,
and that's why I'm asking you to walk us.
No,
I'm asking you to walk us through
I
the
haven't
process.
been through it. As you said, it was just given it to us. I haven't had an opportunity to go through it.
Mr. Mayor, your signature's on it.
Yeah,
Public Works, so
my
you've seen
signature
it.
was signed
You've
how long
seen
ago?
it.
One in October.
October 28th. So you've
That's
seen
right.
this. Don't. This
Yes.
is, that's what I'm saying. I don't, the semantics. We're going to stick to the facts. This document that's before us for Campus Edge Apartments has your signature on it.
And what do you want to know? Do you have a specific question, or you just want to ramble? What's your question? Walk you through it. They brought it in October 26, 2018. It's valued at 13 million. I mean, that's what you want to put the audience through? We can just give them a copy. It's public record. What is it you want to know? Did the people buy the land? I'm assuming, but I haven't seen the bill of sale.
So then there's the development that is by Jones Elementary. When it came for approval, whoever approved it, so you signed off with Public Works. Last week you just said you didn't wanna sign off with Public Works because don't have the subsequent licenses, but hey.
That is
my
not what I
question-
said, Councilman.
My question has to do with this property being in a flood zone and all the subsequent issues that we've heard about for years. What do we have, how do we rectify this these issues before we approve them?
Okay.
Both engineer, plan review, and public works, which you
Okay.
signed off on, which
Okay.
only one has a signature.
Yeah, all of them have only one signature, okay? But, show me the document that says this is in a flood zone, because I haven't seen it.
So,
Now, hold up. You made a statement that it's in a flood zone.
He's about to show you the document.
Show
You got the
me,
map?
because the map that we got from FEMA only showed Ruby Street in a flood zone.
And so our maps, that's why I had wrote around the city today, are they misinform us of how our water flows. So when I went out and I actually seen, if you go in front of Jones Elementary, you can actually see that you're like kinda eye to eye with the second floor of the new development that is coming along. So if you are eye to eye and you go away from and you come from campus, going from the farm, and you could even look at the pavements, the land of water, you can actually see that the grass is discolored. In some areas it'll be a lot greener, because you'll see that, like with the covers, the water flowing, and so you'll see it coming from off the farm to about Jones Elementary, and then you'll see a cubby, but right behind the Santee family house, there's two like ponds. I'm not even sure you would call them retention ponds, that are holding water. And then if you keep looking behind Jones and you take the route that the buses take, it's actually a puddle of water to your left hand.
I'm sorry, Councilman, and I don't mean to cut you off, please forgive me. But the issue on the table is discuss, consider, and review documentation on the development
So,
of Panther Hill
this
Apartments, that sort of thing.
That's it.
So, no, we're not going through the
Yeah,
development.
we're talking about it.
Documentation.
I'm sorry, man. This
That's
is
documentation that have to do with what we're talking
documentation
about.
that has to
Of
do
the
with what we're talking
development
about.
of,
Of the development of what you talking about. But you're the administrator, you're supposed to know this.
Well, evidently, I know a little bit more than you do,
That's
But-
why you're the mayor.
yes. So, let's say hypothetically, for argument's sake, I'll give you that. Let's say it's in somewhat of a flood zone.
Yes, sir.
What can we do when somebody chooses to build on their property, flood zone or not?
But we got it.
Council, our city attorneys have told us before, we cannot tell someone what to do on their property. That's why we're trying to pass that. Listen, but we have no documentation. These are maps. They don't tell me it's in a flood zone.
No,
The attorneys never told us.
So what you do have is floodplain regulations that you passed this fall, that if they are in the FEMA marked floodplain, then they have to comply with the floodplain
Elevation.
Right.
administrations and elevations.
And
And
our
residential
FEMA
and commercial are both different, they have to start at a higher location.
And
that's
our
all.
FEMA maps only show Ruby Street
yeah, and that's why I was just.
in a flood zone by FEMA.
So, Mayor, I was gonna support you, like,
So,
what he's saying is that when you get the maps, and I asked today when was the last time the maps updated, because when you look at the map, it doesn't show like where the water flows or how the water is flowing.
yeah,
and
city
things like
council updated them about 2 months ago under the recommendation of FEMA, and the maps are online.
Yeah, I'm saying the FEMA map though, because it doesn't even show the Walker family pond on those.
They
FEMA
may be
maps.
wrong, but they're adopted by city council under very stringent policy guidelines that are federal guidelines, so it's not.
Yeah, but if you go look at the property that is right next to them, which is Jones Elementary chose to build up.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you
And
what
so,
should be,
we
I'm just saying
that-
as far
that
as
you
your
put,
ordinances.
like, and Mayor, there's no attack upon you knowing that we can't do anything when someone buys the land, but when someone buys the land, I think that we should inform our citizens or the people that are building upon these places that, like, maybe you should build up, because your first level, if you look from Orange Road, directly there, you can see in the second floor window. And so that means when flood and when rain and water comes, that 9 times out of 10, the students that move over there that stay on the first floor are gonna get flooded out.
Now, the engineering company that reviewed these plans on behalf of the city is LJA, who this council has approved numerous times on city projects.
Not this project though.
But
Correct.
you didn't have to, it's a pastor.
What? What, this is what
You
we
don't
talk-
approve engineers review?
If we don't have an engineer, if we do not have a current engineer, project by project, we do need to approve the engineer we use. Now, since you said we have them, Mr. Mayor, we support them. We just want to get clarity. If you say we have LJA, where is their report? Because I don't see it. It's not in here. And so,
No, it's not.
right. And so I'm saying, since LJA says they looked at it, they gave us a document that says these are the things. Bureau Veritas says for Campus Edge Apartments, it says they approved their drawings. It says, but they noted 2 things. And the question as far as not having a city engineer, not having a public works director, who's to make sure that these 2 things are addressed? There are areas shown on these plans which are indicated for future development. The water supply will likely require improvements before those areas are developed. The sprinkler contract should be able to make the systems for these apartments work. It says, however, the increased load of these apartments, domestics use, as well as any future development area will easily deplete the supply. And that's, so we're not talking about just this development, we're talking about the conversation when we talk about water supply for the whole city. If they've came to you and said, this is what we want to do, and we want to put up 500 new things, the conversation that you should be leading us is to council. We need to figure out how to increase our water supply in that area, tie our conversation in a CBA in reference to their development, which would give them the water pressure they need, which would allow the city to expand on for further use. But because we hide so many things, we don't want to have the conversation, and we support. But we don't want to kill the project. We just want the project to be done fair and in order.
The project has been done the same way it's been done for the 9 years you sat on this council. I've done nothing different. When these folks come through, as I recall, the fee was somewhere between $5,000–6,000 for LJA that was paid by the developer, which is the pass-through, which is the custom I inherited. So I know you all know how that part works. And then the developer and the engineer go back and forth on, you need to do this, you need to do that. We don't get involved in it because we don't have the technical expertise. That's why we have them in the first place. We don't know that. We could put that stuff up here. Dr. Fuller might be one of the few people in the room who could read those kind of things. The rest of us can't. But that's why we brought in LJA. On the Campus Edge Apartments, if you look, they hired LJA to do their project in total on their side.
So how could they hire? So
It's
you
2
just
different
saying-
projects, Councilman.
No,
Two
no, I'm
different
saying
projects.
you're
Don't know
gonna
that.
hire LJA Engineering as the engineering company for the developer, but then you're gonna hire LJ Engineering to approve the engineering of their company.
I said it's 2 different projects. You're not hearing me. 2 different companies, 2 different projects. So yes, on one project, they represented us. On another project, these folks are free to, that's what they do. We hire engineers, they hire engineers. What's complicated about that? They're 2 different projects. They're not related owners, and they're different properties. What I'm sharing with you that maybe you'd like to see differently, all I'm sharing with you is the caliber of engineering company that we all know and why we've used LJA numerous times over the years is involved in both projects. That should give you some relief knowing, on one hand you say there's no engineer. On the other you see them on here and say, wait a minute, it's the same engineering, but it's different projects. If we got 5 projects here and we've got different engineers and they hired all the same ones, they have a right to do that.
You said the engineer information was in here?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
So how do we know that?
I didn't put this together. I didn't ask for it to be put together.
Shouldn't it
So
be-
whatever's not in here, I have nothing to do with.
But shouldn't it all be in the
Who-
same?
Who
in the same
requested
place?
this?
Council.
Council requested.
Okay, but who spoke to the staff out front? Someone directed Ms. Cortez or
No,
Ms.
city
Hayes?
council, at the last city council meeting, we directed, but you're the administrative person, and so you should have come prepared to speak about this. The process that you know that you just approved. We're simply asking if we don't have an engineer who quit. Project by project, we've hired engineer. You've put on the agenda 2 times to hire LJA. We've used Trilogy, project by project. Now you have amnesia, and now you're saying you can just use who you want. It comes before council. And we're simply saying that whether it be LJA or anybody, that we just make sure that we have our T's crossed and our I's dotted to make sure that an engineering firm, Public Works, have looked at the plans that have been submitted. Right now, LJA didn't even say they looked at this, so I would definitely love to see what they looked at on campus edge apartments, and then we'll go to the other ones after.
Well, you can either get it from the ladies tomorrow, because it's obviously not here.
Campus edge is the one that's by Jones Elementary.
Where in the city charter or the city ordinances does it tell you that I'm supposed to bring back to council the approval by project of which engineering firm we use as a pass-through?
If council.
Quote the section.
If council asks for something to be on the agenda and directs the administration, who do you think is supposed to get the information? The administration. Aren't you not the administrative person who signed for Public Works, who signed for engineering, who signed for everything else? So you should be the one who answers our questions. Stop trying to fight us and just listen to what we're saying. We're all on the same team.
I agree with you, but you're telling me I'm supposed to do something, but you can't tell me where it says I'm supposed to do it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Jones.
well, council,
Please, please.
is council finished with these 2 projects?
No, I have one more statement and then I'm done with it.
Go ahead, Councilman.
But I think we're to the point now where we're allowing developers to jeopardize and compromise the identity of our community. So we have one development that has been shown to be unsafe for the people who live in it. We have another development that's trying to increase the traffic to one of our most prestigious neighborhoods by over 100%, where kids play, where families live. And then we have another development that's being built right by a multi-million-dollar elementary school that this community fought to have. And nobody's saying anything about the identity of the city of Prairie. And so we're just letting people develop freely without taking those things into consideration. We're just signing permits and we're just letting people do things however they will without taking into consideration that the identity, the safety, the continuity of our community. And I think going forward, that's something that we really need to have a conversation about is what do we want our community to look like at the end of the day?
Good point. Now, let me ask you this. All of these properties are building where this council, not you, not me, I wasn't here, the 4 of us weren't here. This council voted for zoning. These folks are buying the land and building what you zoned for them to build in those zones. So that is the power that the city has in telling people you can't build this over here because of zoning or that situation, but all of these are zoned multi-use commercial. This council did this years ago.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Jones.
that's why we also, I think for the past, I want to say since Councilmember Wallace has came on council to ask for the city's strategic plan with how we would like the direction in our city to go in. Because in the strategic plan, you would have, it would have been brought to our attention. And we possibly could have did several things to not mix when you have families staying with college students, as we hear that as a complaint all the time. But now we have a housing facility that's going to be for students right behind our families and things of that such. And now right behind Jones Elementary, you have this going on. And I think just to piggyback off him, we can't continue to put Like, I'm glad you didn't do that with this project, but like, put our citizens at risk, as to say like, hey, we support this project and we behind this project, and then when our students and citizens move in to these homes and to these apartments, when things happen, we be the first to say, well, we have nothing to do with it. But we seen this coming in advance, to be able to possibly get the developer to say, hey, if Jones Elementary build up, why wouldn't you build up? Or even like to ride around to on James Community Parkway, to be able to see that on Ruby Street, you can see the top of those houses. So you know when it rains and floods, that the first thing that you're gonna still be able to see is the top of those houses. But I think that we have a housing development that we still haven't talked about, which is Panther Hill, which the documents didn't come back to show anything different, in which council has basically been fighting.
Council hired Bureau Veritas to inspect on behalf of the city. If there's something that Bureau Veritas isn't doing, we've had them here, they're being paid by the developer, and it's a pass-through on us. But those are the experts doing the inspecting. You all are speaking like that's what I do. That's not what any of us do. That's why we hired those professionals. On one hand, I'm told we don't have an engineer involved. On the other, I'm saying, wait a minute. You got the same engineer involved on 2 projects. You gotta make up your mind. We got engineers checking the stuff on behalf of us and on behalf of them, and the documentation is in front of you. Yes, Councilman Wallace.
Okay, so through the past couple of about 10-15 minutes of y'all been discussing the different things. So I actually have all the inspection reports from Panther Hills. I got it in hand, in hard copy. I know that we previously talked about Panther Hills and some of the older buildings and some of the issues, but I know that some new buildings were currently being built. And I can tell you right now, from looking at these inspection reports, we probably need to talk about this even further, because a lot of times whenever I hear students speak about Panther Hills, a lot of times you refer them as illegitimate, and their concerns are illegitimate. Whenever there's
Who did that?
you know on multiple occasions.
That's a lie.
You went to a community meeting on campus in which you called their concern illegitimate.
That is not
You've been
true.
calling Ms. Jackson's concern illegitimate
That was-
every council meeting. So, and here's the thing, I have the facts. I have the writing. So we're probably going to either A, have to either go to the executive session, talk about the new building that no one's living in yet, but I'm assuming that it's been completed, and if we're gonna allow them to live in it, then we're about to have a repeat of what we had, and we need to jump on this early before we allow it to happen again.
What's your basis for executive session? Because the public's right to know overrides us going into a room and talking privately
Oh, no.
on a public
I mean,
project.
I can talk about it right now. If we talk about it. Okay, so of course, if we talk about past buildings, the issue was a lot of them weren't up to par with the documentation, and yet people were allowed to live in those buildings. And so the ideology was that for the next set of buildings, we make sure that everything is up to par, everything's 100% passed, so that when people live in the building, the students won't be living in the same predicament or have the same complaint that came over and over again to the council. But as I see right now, a lot of these inspections didn't pass fully. It's not 100%. And if we allow, as a council, and as you as the man that can sign off on the certificate of occupancies and temporary certificate of occupancies, if you try to make the statement that it's the student's fault, or mold is just, or whatever reasons you try to do to discredit.
When did I say it was the student's fault? Why are you sitting up here lying?
Discredit.
Facebook.
You said it to me.
I was saying, try to discredit the students. Then at the end of the day, we know for sure.
Ladies,
that this
hold
is
on,
not,
Councilman.
we're not.
It's a public meeting, and conversation from the audience. Both of you had your opportunity to come up here, but you are not to, by law, interfere with this meeting. So please don't. I know you have some concerns, fine, But, Ms. Jackson, they've been trying to move you since January, you don't wanna move.
No, it's all mess. Why would I do that?
Well, I read it earlier.
How can you
I read it earlier.
Just go ahead.
Yeah, say what you're gonna say, but quit alluding to what you think I said.
I'm just saying the truth. So we got plumbing reports that failed. We got past partial, which I wouldn't want to live in a past partial house.
Can
I
you
would-
define the past partial, what it means?
It means that it didn't fully pass.
Passed partially.
Yeah, past partial.
And,
mean, it
and
didn't
they go
fully pass.
back to inspect when after that? It's a part of the process.
Well, and here's the thing. I would think that the ideology is if it passed partially, not passed fully, that we would allow them to continue to do until it's fully passed. But we've seen with the past ones in Panther Hill, that is not the case. So I'm bringing it out on the forefront now to say that these passed partially, that some of these failed, some of these said.
These are dated 2018, Exante, so are these new buildings or buildings that they did way back last year? Because these are dated in 2018, this is 2019.
From my
So
understanding,
when were these buildings put up?
so from my understanding that some of these buildings, the last one was what, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. This is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. This is the most recent ones that people are not currently living in, but still need to be addressed.
Oh, so it's not
November
unsafe.
the 2018, ain't nobody living in them?
No, because they still have a temporary that hasn't been, we gave them a temporary occupancy, and we haven't brought back whether or not to give them an occupancy,
So
and it's been passed.
Okay,
So-
so it's May, so should we have some
So,
updated ones?
well, that's what, I don't know.
Council designated Bureau Veritas
I
to do
understand.
that. If there's some substandard, those are Bureau Veritas documents, we can't sort them out here. We, as Councilwoman Williams stated, they may be outdated, they may be still working on it. When is the next inspection? And
So-
if no one's living there, as you just stated, then the building may not be complete, and that's why we don't have finals.
So once again, the thing is, in a logical term, we would assume that if it's not past inspection,
Well,
that we won't allow people to live in there.
And
but
you
we've
said
seen that-
nobody's living there.
But
But-
it's previous buildings that haven't passed the inspection, that they still show up as failed in the Bureau Veritas packet, and students are living in there now. It's
Okay.
still buildings that we only gave temporary certificates of occupancy, but other buildings they're living in, and they wasn't even brought up for a temporary certificate.
Okay, so as council, why don't we change our process and have Bureau Veritas come to our city council meetings to give us updates on all these buildings that they putting up? Because this is back in November of 2018. What's been done to those buildings since 2018?
We asked for an
Because we're
update.
now, okay, so,
As council, we
okay, so
asked
can
for
you get
update.
Bureau Veritas to come to our next, meeting? You have all of those, can you make copies for all of us?
I can get the city secretary.
It's-
Okay.
they-
But
they've been
it
scanned to
was
us.
emailed to us. This is just
Scanned to us.
printed out in hard copy.
So, quick question. The mayor, so, Mr. Mayor,
Councilman?
with the concerns you've had in reference to what Councilman Wallace just identified,
Mhm.
you saw